Hey guys.
Hello.
Questions for Coach?
No?
Hey, good job.
James, we saw Chop over with you. How's your look or your hopeful as the
Yeah, like I think I said that to you guys on Monday, that we're hopeful that he'll be ready to go.
How did he look today?
Good. I spend most of the time on the offensive side of the field, so I got to watch the tape. But good. He looked good on Sunday. He looked good on Monday. I'll watch the tape. But yeah, good.
How would you say you're on the practice field thus far this week? Your passing attack and momentum, confidence, whatever you want to call it, coming out of the Maryland matchup. Is that something that you can feel on the field? Can you sense it with the way these guys are approaching the practices?
I think we've been making steady progress all year long. I wouldn't necessarily say anything significantly different from last week, but I think we've been making steady progress in practices and a little bit in the games.
James, you saw Tony Rojas make some plays at the end of the game. See someone that can factor more in the rotation earlier in games?
He did some really good things. Obviously, we feel really good about the guys that are ahead of him as well. We'll see how that plays out, but I do think it is a positive that we got young guys that are getting a ton of reps right now, and that we got young guys that not only are getting a ton of reps but are making plays, which allows them to gain confidence and the coaches to gain confidence in that.
James, what do Friday and Saturday look like for you personally from a recruiting perspective? How much time do you have to spend on that, and how do you balance it personally between the recruiting and the game prep?
Yeah, I think this is one of the Fridays where I'm not out. I've been out a good portion of the year, not every game, but a good portion of the year, either Friday morning and Friday night. I don't think I'm out this week. And then we got a ton of recruits coming in on Saturday, and that's the hard part, especially with it being a 12 o'clock game. That makes it challenging. But I also think we try to communicate as much as we can with the recruits that, look, you just got to understand we don't have a whole lot of opportunity to sit down with guys individually. So I think most of them understand that. And then some of them that are able to get in here early, then we may do something with them if they're here Friday, or if they're staying the night. Saturday allows us to do some things on Sunday, but it's challenging. But obviously the game environment, the game, should create a great experience for them.
James, K-Tron, these last 2 weeks, how would you assess how he's played in what you call the big boy game? His running style, his power, how much does that play?
Yeah, really well. I mean, he's been playing really well now. I think he really built on what he did last year. He is a tough guy. Every run, he's usually breaking tackles, punishing tacklers, carrying guys for another 2 or 3 yards. Is really playing well. And we talk about toughness, being one of our key ingredients as a team and on offense. And I think he's one of the guys that I think does a phenomenal job of kind of setting that tone for our whole team. Fires up the sideline and fires up the offensive line. And he's having a really good year. And I think he's respected kind of throughout the league with the way he runs and his running style.
A week like this, as the head coach, what would you say your principles are when it comes to which motivational buttons to push and when to push them?
Yeah, I think, it's interesting because, as you can imagine, over 9 years, I've tried about everything, right? Trying to keep the approach as consistent and steady as we can. After wins, coaching the guys really hard so there's no complacency kind of seeping into the program. Try to keep things as consistent as possible, but then there's different kind of methods and models that we've used over 9 years in trying to kind of figure out the best way to do it. And then the other challenge is right, every team is different. So something maybe you've done 2 years ago, maybe that wasn't the right thing for that team, but maybe it is for this team. So just trying to kind of understand the temperament of the team, and that's where the leadership council comes in, or the captains come in to kind of get a feel where they're at with things. I met with the captains on think it was Tuesday. I think it was Tuesday before practice. Theo kind of had some comments to the offense as well. Keaton Ellis had some comments to the defense. I thought were good messages overall. But that's constantly what I'm trying to do. What I stay up late thinking about, or early in the morning thinking about. I'll have discussions. I went in with the defensive staff and kind of talked about some things from a strategy standpoint this morning with Manny and the defensive staff. Just trying to find any little advantage we can that's going to give us a chance to get a win on Saturday. So that's what the entire week is about.
Coach, you're talking about your depth a little bit. How key is it in a top 10 showdown like this one against a team that's very well rounded?
Yeah, it's really important at this point of the year that we have at least a 2 deep going into the game that's gained experience. So that allows you with a 3 deep to have maybe one guy that's bumped up or bruised. So I think the depth is really important. They got a lot of depth on their defense and their front 7 to play a ton of guys. We do as well. That's going to be important. This quarterback is a heck of an athlete, and being able to have fresh bodies in there to be able to kind of chase him and create some pressure is going to be really important.
You mentioned how the practices keep going.
Thank you. What's the value of zone pressure? It seems like something that a lot of teams are doing more lately than maybe in the past.
Well, it really depends. If you're a zone team, then you probably live in that a lot. If you're a man team, then that's a good change-up, right? And I think what you're trying to decide each week is when you watch people on tape, what is that quarterback most comfortable with? Is he most comfortable with man coverage and man beaters? Does he read zone coverage well and have a feel for space and depth? That's what you're trying to decide, and you're really trying to say, okay, what's going to be our complement this week? Are we going to mix in some zone pressures? Are we going to, go heavy man pressure? And that's what you're trying to do to try to confuse the quarterback and try to confuse the coordinator to show one thing and bring another type of deal. And those zone concepts sometimes help with that and sometimes allow you to do that. Or, the formations play a part in that as well, right? If you're getting a lot of mesh and crossing routes, then obviously, your zone complements help with that too.
You mentioned how practices have gotten better throughout the weeks. How's the team taking that next elite level to prepare for an opponent like Michigan?
Yeah, we just try to get better every single week.
James, first and second down, always important. But is it more so in a game like this when you've got 2 elite defenses on the field?
Yeah, I think it's critical. I mean, as we know, a couple weeks ago, that was a problem. We got behind the sticks, and you don't want to get behind the sticks against elite defenses. You guys see when that happens, for our defense, when we're able to get people in obvious passing downs, that's not a whole lot of fun. When you got the pass rushers that we do and the scheme that we do, the same with them. So doing everything we can to scratch, claw, fight, to manufacture offense, to make plays, and to stay ahead of the sticks. They've been pretty much ahead on the scoreboard and on the sticks on offense and defense all year long. So trying to get them to play in a way they have not played really this year.
James, we talked to Kalen today, and he was pretty honest in his assessment of how he played a couple weeks ago at Ohio State, but he said the big thing that he took away from that game was making sure that it didn't linger, didn't carry over into his future performance. In his 3 years here, how have you seen his maturity kind of come along in addition to what we've seen on the field?
Yeah, he's an awesome young man, and Terry's done a really good job with him as well. It really helped that he came from a great high school program. It really helped that he was raised extremely well, mom and dad. Obviously, him and his brother are very tight, and that's a tremendous support system for him here as well. But he's always had a lot of belief in himself. He's always been super competitive since he stepped on campus, and he's been coachable. And I think him and Terry have developed a really strong relationship. So I'm proud of him. I'm very, very proud of him. He's done well academically. he's really done a good job in his 3 years of kind of maximizing this experience and kind of taking it all in. And his maturity on and off the field is another example.
You mentioned, I think, recently the dominance in the third quarter. You guys had like 87
Yeah, Nurs is the same way.
Yeah, right. What goes into that dominance, and what kind of impact is it going to have?
Well, I think obviously, you got two really good defenses that also set their offenses up for success. And I think both defenses are playing really good in the first and second half, but they're also experienced coordinators that also now, after having a good idea of what they've done in the first 2 quarters, got a pretty good idea of what they're doing and how they're trying to attack you. So then you can make some subtle adjustments with the players. You can talk with the coach and staff about how we're going to approach the second half, eliminate some of the calls that maybe gave you some issues in the first half, lean heavily into the calls that were successful. But I think it's kind of like a player, right? You get into a rhythm. You get into a rhythm of how to call the play and what we're doing well and what's giving them problems. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.